Here we have verse 8 of the 10th chapter of the Gospel of John. Jesus making a distinction between himself and the others, especially the religious leaders who have been illegitimate in the claim they have been making to be shepherds of the flock. And Jesus at this point makes the statement that he is the true door. He's the door of the sheep. Notice it's the door of the sheep more than the door of the fold, a word that showed up earlier. He's really the door of the sheep. That's the point. And this first metaphor that Jesus pulls out is intended to say that those who trust him, the sheep that belong to him, view him as the doorway into the life as they've known it, to the better things that he offers. And then Jesus says a very interesting thing in verse 8, Pontes. Pontes is the adjective, it's the masculine plural, nominative, all. We could render it all men or all people. Hosoi, the idea of how many soever or how many ever, that's the idea, a little bit awkward in English, but that's the notion of it. So all, whoever, then eilthon from erchomai, third person plural, aorist active indicative, all who came. And then we have this parenthetical pro emu, not in all manuscripts, but fairly well attested. Pro is the preposition, means before, takes the genitive, so before me. All who came before me. And of course it raises the question, is Jesus being quite that extravagant in his statement here? Does he mean everybody that came before him? Everybody that came as a prophet in the Old Covenant era? That certainly is not consistent with many other things that Jesus says. And so it suggests maybe that what Jesus has in mind here is more all that have come before me in this day. This was a time in which there was a great deal of messianic expectation based on Old Testament texts, especially Daniel, and there were others that had come really claiming to be the Messiah, and Jesus wants to dismiss them now by indicating that they were kleptai. This is from kleptes, have the word kleptomania from this, of course. It means to steal. The idea here is a thief. Someone who steals, usually surreptitiously is the idea, so all who came before me, thieves, and then asen. This is from ami, I am, third person plural, present active indicative, and that does suggest as well that the ones that he's referring to, he's putting in the present tense. He doesn't say all that came before me were, as if it would extend clear back through the Old Covenant era, but are, suggesting he's talking more about the present time frame. But one way or another, all that came before me were kleptai, thieves, they are, kai, the connective, lustai, we had this word earlier, lustes is the word for a robber. It carries the idea of a brigand, someone that's a little more violent, more in your face, pulls a gun on you, that kind of thing. But both together, of course, represent those who are taking what is not legitimately theirs. And thus he's dismissing these who have come presumably before claiming to be the Messiah, but not really having the requisite credentials to make that claim. All, this is the strong conjunction, Allah, but, uk, the negation, akusan, from akuo, I hear, third person plural, aorist active indicative, but they do not hear. Akuo takes the genitive, and so we find it here, they do not hear them. Then the subject of that verb is ta probata, a word we've seen before, the sheep. Probone is the word for sheep, and this is the neuter of that word. It's the it's the nominative plural neuter noun. So they do not hear them. So all those that have come before me, presumably in the present age, are thieves and robbers, but the sheep, the true sheep, those that belong to Christ, those who view him truly and accept him as their door, have some kind of intuition knowing that these are not the true shepherd, and thus they do not, in the deepest sense, hear them.